What do you think about her tweet?
This is the left 101. When it doesn't go my way, it's racist, and any black man or woman involved in the process who didn't agree with him, obviously they're irrelevant. So that was a good. Just go whang. Just complain. I mean, that's what children do. They never can accept a decision, and affirmative action the case was even being brought up because Asian Americans felt that they were not getting a fair opportunity. So rich white people didn't have.
Oh, you're going to absolutely love the story because something happened that nobody saw coming, but somehow everybody secretly wanted to see. Imagine this. AOC walks onto the stage with tons of energy, looking super passionate, ready to share her big message with everyone. The whole stage is hers, or at least that's what she thinks, until suddenly, completely out of nowhere, Tyrus shows up. This guy is like a walking wrecking ball, made of funny jokes and clever comebacks. In just a second, he turns her serious, dramatic moment into something so hilariously sharp, it almost needed a warning sticker on it. What happened after that was so crazy, it almost seemed like it couldn't be real.
You don't have anything to talk about in terms of merit. You just blame it on rich white people. And it's been a cushion that's been allowed in this country for a long time. And now you see more of that's the new pillow. My pillow's got nothing on the new pillow of blame rich white people because you can rest your hand on it in any argument. Bring any argument up with me. Anything. Ask me any questions. How are the Knicks doing this year? Well, why am I supposed to know that? I'm not a rich white person. See what I'm saying?
You're loving this, right? So don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it really helps more than most people think. Politics has always been full of big, flashy moments. The type where someone steps up, waves their arms around like they're acting in a TV drama, and makes their fans believe that something historic is happening right there in front of them. Very few people do this theatrical show better than AOC, who never just walks into a room normally. She bursts in with so much energy coming from every step, like she's about to give the most important speech ever, even when she's just ordering a regular cup of coffee.
Unaffected are completely out of touch with everything. This is a big country. Some people, regardless of high inflation, are still going to fly. It has nothing to do with lower class Americans who are struggling to pay bills or people just make their decisions. It's just, they're so out of touch. And they worry about other things, the wrong things like pardons and perceptions and how they're looked at. Instead of just shutting up, step out of your little bubble, close the safe spaces, walk out on this crunchy green stuff called grass, and get involved in the world and see that
every single word AOC says is wrapped in total drama. Each point she makes sounds urgent, like she's telling the world that something terrible might happen tomorrow. But this time around, she stepped into a moment she just couldn't control because the spotlight wouldn't stay on her. It moved straight over to the real star of the evening, Tyrus. Yep, Tyrus. The guy who can take serious political tension and turn it into easy comedy with just one raised eyebrow, throwing out jokes that hit like a powerful punch and leave everyone in the room shocked and surprised.
No, of course you didn't make a decision. And again, these are all successful men and women of color who all have educations, who are sitting on top of the mountain and calling fouls. This is just par for the course. It is just, what is the narrative? Oh, that's the way we're going with it? But it was nice to see white men get a break. You know what? Because you had a rough year. So you started blaming yourself on white women. So you guys get a little bit of a fail.
And poor AOC didn't see any of it coming, not even a tiny bit. You'd think an experienced politician would know better than to go too big when a master of sarcasm is waiting just off stage like a quiet thunderstorm, ready to attack. But instead, she jumped right in with total confidence, thinking the crowd would leave feeling inspired, educated, and maybe even ready to put her picture on money. Armed with numbers, dramatic breaks in her speech, and that special look on her face that basically says, "I've figured out all of life's secrets, and only I can show you the way." She charged ahead with full power, completely unaware of the funny disaster waiting behind her.
Fascists, and we have fan mail, and I just can't listen to those Nate Silvers and these Stylized people just pipes into this glorious show. AOC. What? It's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas.
She built her whole speech like it came straight from a superhero movie, filled with scary climate problems, growing money gaps between rich and poor people, and unstoppable greedy companies. Everything was presented in big, sweeping ways that made every problem sound like the whole future of humanity was at risk. Like always, she put herself right in the center as the brave hero standing strong against hidden bad guys lurking in the shadows. And if you looked really carefully, you could almost hear superhero-themed music playing behind her dramatic hand movements. When she raised her hand at just the right moment, it looked like fate itself had told her what to do. Yet, the audience still responded with nothing more than polite, almost robotic clapping, the type people do just because they feel they have to. It wasn't loud approval or real excitement, just courtesy clapping, a way for them to pat themselves on the back for being there. Still, AOC looked at the crowd like she'd just received a huge standing ovation. But the reality is that over-the-top performances always leave an opening, a perfect setup for comedy. And that's exactly where Tyrus does his best work. He doesn't carry folders full of statistics. He doesn't stretch out comparisons until they break. And he definitely doesn't need to predict the end of the world just to get people's attention. His weapon is something sharper, faster, and raw in the moment. Pure, unfiltered humor.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she responded to this ruling on Twitter as well. She says, if the Supreme Court was serious about their ridiculous color blindness claims, they would have abolished legacy admissions, aka affirmative action for the privileged. 70% of Harvard's legacy applicants are white. SCOTUS didn't touch that, which would have impacted them and their patrons. Does she have a point there?
She used the word ludicrous. That was cool. That was new. But again, it's the same argument. No matter what you're doing, that it's all white people's fault, and it's just such a great talking point, to the point where it's just literally, if it was a dying horse, would say.
While AOC stacked sentence after sentence like she was building a tower that was going to fall over, Tyrus sat back with the calm confidence of someone waiting to knock down a tower of blocks, with one perfectly timed sarcastic comment. But before we get to that awesome moment, it's worth stopping to appreciate just how hard AOC tried to control the room. She leaned into the microphone like it was her best friend, walking across the stage with that super serious walk politicians love to do, hitting each pause like she was trying out for a fancy TED Talk she really wanted to nail. And every time she stopped talking, hoping the room would explode with applause, the audience instead gave that awkward half-hearted clapping, the kind that says, we're not really sure if you're done speaking, but here's something so it doesn't feel too quiet. You know that look, a mix of feeling sorry for someone and being slightly amused, like watching a friend nervously try karaoke for the first time while everyone tries to be encouraging. The truth is, the harder AOC pushed her own seriousness, the more she opened herself up to the one thing that could cut straight through all the theatrics. And that thing was about to show up. Not wrapped in statistics, not soaked in dramatic speeches, but swinging in with a hammer of humor that only Tyrus knows how to use.
Introduce a fresh idea or issue in her life. The reason why she gets along with Bernie is because she's like an 80-year-old leftist in a used bookstore. I mean, she may look fresh, but she's as stale as an abandoned futon on the street. It's like, I listen to her, I go, I heard that at Berkeley in 1983. So the problem is, and the reason why they don't have any ideas is they operate.
The funny thing about all of this is that AOC loves being in control, building her whole identity on shaping the story exactly how she wants it, setting up the stage, picking the rhythm, and expecting the audience to follow along like devoted fans listening to every word. But humor doesn't follow those rules. Humor doesn't care about timing, structure, or dramatic storylines. It hits fast, cuts deep, and once laughter fills the room, the serious tone she depends on completely falls apart. And there sat Tyrus, armed with nothing more than a pretend slingshot, fully ready to knock out the first block and send her whole performance crashing down. The room wasn't tense because her words were touching hearts. It was tense because everyone was waiting to see what surprise would happen next. The beautiful thing about moments like this is that embarrassment doesn't always come with yelling or arguments. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly with perfect timing through someone casually showing how weak the whole performance really was. That's exactly where Tyrus does his magic. He doesn't rush in with anger or fill the room with fury. He takes everything apart with something way sharper, faster, and way more devastating. Sharp-edged humor that lands like a clean hit.
Is taking a break from doing nothing to get into a beef with the Twitter chief. On Tuesday, she tweeted, LMAO at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually an $8 a month subscription plan. That's a reference to Musk's plan to charge people $8 a month for verified blue checkmark status. But he hit back tweeting, your feedback is appreciated. Now pay $8.
The stage couldn't have been set up more perfectly. AOC was deep in full drama mode, riding the wave of her own performance, totally unaware that the room was slowly slipping away from her like sand falling through open fingers. The applause had faded into polite little taps. The eye rolls were stacking higher than her talking points, and Tyrus sat there practically glowing with excitement, wearing the look of someone who knows his punchline is going to land like a knockout punch. And when he finally leaned forward, everything changed in a split second. But here's the crazy part. AOC wasn't even in the room to face him. And somehow that made the whole thing even funnier and sharper. Making fun of someone to their face is expected, but making fun of them when they aren't there, with that playful edge that makes people laugh and agree at the same time. That's a completely different game. And Tyrus plays it like a champion. That's exactly how he went after AOC, treating her carefully planned political performance not like a revolutionary movement, but more like a late-night comedy sketch that stayed on stage way too long. His first joke came fast and clean. The idea that AOC can't enter any room without immediately turning it into a dramatic lecture about how civilization is only 3 tweets away from collapsing.
Says AOC has 51% approval rating.
Yeah.
Democrats, right? The highest of any Democrat unless they've been elected president. So if your new brand ambassador is going to be AOC, then I think it's more than...
Tyrus joked that AOC probably rehearses her speeches in the mirror before she even brushes her teeth, arms waving everywhere while numbers fly around her, leaving her toothbrush looking totally traumatized by all the chaos. Just that mental picture alone was enough to destroy every bit of her carefully built stage presence. From there, he went straight for her favorite trick, those heavy comparisons she loves to use, ripping them apart with smooth, sharp humor. He teased that if she accidentally knocks over a simple glass of water, she'd probably say it's clear evidence of rising ocean levels. If her Uber arrives late, obviously that must be greedy corporations attacking society. And if her phone battery drops below 20%, well, that must be capitalism letting down humanity in real time. Suddenly, all those dramatic comparisons she uses stopped sounding powerful, and instead started to feel like pages torn from a stressed-out theater student's notebook. According to Tyrus, AOC could be explaining what she wants for lunch and still make it sound like she's revealing the answer to all human problems. Yes, I'll have the avocado toast, he joked. Because nothing represents the struggles of our generation quite like expensive guacamole. What makes Tyrus so brilliant in moments like this is that he doesn't need to make things bigger than they are. He just takes what's already there, her tone, her habits, her constant need to turn everyday moments into a political battle, and shines a bright light on it until all the seriousness melts into pure silly fun.
They're not meant for you, right? But then you have to ask, okay, then what is this debt forgiveness? Who's it meant for? And when you look at the data, it's upper, white, middle-class, liberal women. This ain't welfare, right? These are well-to-do people. It's a bribe for Democrats on the backs of plumbers, truckers, and everyone else who actually does a real job, unlike me. AOC is the symbol of the entitled sponge. She complains about student loans.
What used to look like strong leadership suddenly looked more like pure overacting. And once you start seeing it that way, you just can't stop seeing it. Tyrus didn't stop at her speeches. He went straight for her social media habits, too. Because AOC treats Twitter like it's her own personal president's platform. He joked that if the Wi-Fi ever stopped working in Washington, she would probably call it the biggest attack on democracy in modern times, typing in all capital letters about a nationwide conspiracy just because her Instagram live video froze for a second. With that image in everyone's mind, the weight of her message melted into total silliness, making her seem less like a congresswoman leading a movement and more like a comedian describing a dramatic neighbor with a talent for chaos. But Tyrus wasn't done. Not even close. Because he saved one of his sharpest jokes for the difference between AOC's constant warnings about everything and her perfectly styled, polished lifestyle. After all, nothing says the planet is on fire quite like showing up to a climate change photo shoot wearing a complete designer outfit from head to toe.
She owns a French Bulldog. Thanks to Cat Temp, I know everything about French Bulldogs. And one thing I know, they are so expensive. They're more expensive than any college tuition that you got to take care of them. They're adorable dogs. She owns a Tesla and she owns a French Bulldog, and she wants you or your dad, the electrician, to forgive her student loan. That's BS. Turn in the Tesla, sell the dog.
Tyrus pointed out the irony that for someone who constantly calls capitalism the big villain, AOC seems to move through it and benefit from it with impressive ease. A detail that hits even harder because it feels painfully true. The sarcasm basically wrote itself as he spoke. But his sharpest joke landed when he compared listening to her speeches to being stuck in a classroom where the teacher lost the lesson plan weeks ago, but still won't stop talking. You don't know where the lesson began. You can't figure out where it's headed. Yet somehow you're supposed to take neat notes like it all makes perfect sense. That became his quick description for her entire speaking style. Loud, wandering, dramatic, and ultimately tiring to sit through. And the best part? She wasn't even there to give a reaction or fight back, giving Tyrus even more space to stretch out, make fun, and twist the knife just a little deeper without a single interruption. Without a live comeback, every punchline stayed longer, landing with extra strength, proving he didn't need a pile of facts or serious debate points. All he needed was his sarcasm, and that alone was more than enough to change the room's entire feeling.
$80 for theater. I mean, I made $80 in a theater, and there wasn't even a movie playing.
Wow. What do you mean?
I don't know. You know, it's no surprise. Who would go see a movie that's the opposite of entertaining? There's nothing entertaining about that. Michael Moore's colonoscopy is more entertaining than that. There's probably more twists. But it does show you how great it is to be a progressive in a liberal biased culture. She really doesn't do her job, right? She makes movies, she goes to galas, she sits for glossy butt-kissing interviews in GQ.
And by the time Tyrus finished his takedown, the polished image of AOC as an unstoppable force had fallen apart into something much closer to an ongoing joke. The kind that gets funnier every time you think about it. Every exaggerated hand gesture she used, every overly dramatic comparison, every scary warning about the world ending, all of it suddenly turned into perfect material for jokes. The real embarrassment didn't come from shouting or fighting. It came from something way more subtle, but way more powerful. The complete reframing of who she is. What used to feel like power and confidence now looked more like a comedy act. And once the audience saw her through that new perspective, there was just no going back. The shift happened instantly, and the impact was impossible to miss.